There are now some new reports and new rumors suggesting that America might have fumbled the ball and sold thousands of Bitcoin because of the interview I'm about to play for you from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, again, we're also going to be looking at why the UK might be selling its Bitcoin right now. But this interview that Scott Bessent gave on Fox News today was so insane that he had to go to Twitter only hours later and kind of retract what he said on the national news. Let's play the video for you guys, and then we're going to get into what exactly is happening.
We've got the large gold holding. I doubt we're going to revalue it, but we are going to keep it there, again, as a store of value for the American people. We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
The catchphrase was right there. America's Bitcoin holdings at today's value, it's only 15 to 20 billion. Hang on a minute. Where's the rest? America is supposed to be sitting on 190,000 Bitcoin. Where is the rest of its coins? Again, Bitcoin today, we're valued at $123,000 last night. We've dipped a little bit lower right now. I believe at the time of recording, we're at $118,000. But quick math tells me that America should be sitting on a little bit more than $15 billion worth of Bitcoin. And this has naturally caused a little bit of a stir on Twitter today because people are now starting to ask the question, hang on a minute, America won't buy any more Bitcoin and they're only sitting on 15 billion? Have they been selling? Again, a lot of people have been wondering why the price of Bitcoin has kind of been, let's call it what it is, stagnant. Again, we were at $123,000 right now with the amount of Bitcoin that's been ripped off the exchanges. A lot of people are now starting to wonder, hang on a minute, why is the price not much higher than it is? Well, I think this Bessent interview was an interesting one because he straight out came out and said, we're not going to be buying any more Bitcoin. That's the first thing that's a lot of people kind of raised their eyebrows at. And here's the quote that Matthew Skool posted. Again, ETF expert. This dude's got, he's got 46,000 followers on Twitter. I thought he had more, but he said Bessent says they're going to stop selling Bitcoin holdings. Bitcoin reserves are worth around 15 billion to 20 billion, and they're going to retain gold as a store of value. They're not going to sell gold. So maybe this kind of answers a lot of the rumors and the speculations that I think we had earlier in the week. Because let's not forget what happened earlier in the week. America's very own Bitcoin advisor to the White House, he stepped down. This is Bo Hines. He announced his departure from the White House earlier in the week. Again, I haven't broken it down in a video yet because I just didn't think it was a massive announcement. I didn't think it was newsworthy unless I actually thought there was a story there. Now I think there might be a story here. Now we might finally maybe be getting some answers as to why Bo Hines actually left. I didn't want to just speculate when I saw this news come out earlier in the week. But there was a lot of speculation earlier in the week. Hang on a minute. Why is Bo Hines leaving Trump? And when did he leave? He left straight after Crypto Week happened in Washington, America in the middle of July. Now maybe we're getting some confirmation to the rumors as to why he stepped down. Maybe he heard that Scott Bessent was a little bit of a bear. He didn't want to buy Bitcoin. But then what's really interesting is I just played you the clip. Look at what happened after Scott Bessent went on Fox News. Literally a couple of hours later, he wrote this on Twitter. Bitcoin that has been finally forfeited to the federal government will be the foundation of the strategic Bitcoin reserve that Trump established in his March executive order. In addition, Treasury is committed to exploring budget-neutral pathways to acquire more Bitcoin to expand the reserve and execute on the president's promise to make the United States the Bitcoin superpower of the world. This is literally a direct contradiction to what he said 2 hours earlier on Fox News. And we can see everybody's blowing him up in the comments of his own tweet, saying, hang on a minute, what's changed, Mr. Besant? Why did you dramatically change your tune in the past 2 hours? Budget neutral, 6102. Bo Hines out, Yao got played. There's some interesting theories. There's some really interesting theories. Why did he make a change of tune so quickly? Why, oh why? Why, oh why do we have the UK openly talking about dumping their Bitcoin? I think this is really fascinating. We now have a lot of rumors and a lot of speculations about some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. And again, I will remind you guys that in that 2021 Bitcoin bull run, I strongly believe there was a concerted effort to create this propaganda, narrative warfare to confuse people. And this naturally led to the price of Bitcoin crashing by about 50% in the middle of a 2021 bull run. Again, what happened in the space of weeks? We saw China ban Bitcoin mining. We saw Elon Musk do a Bitcoin backflip. Again, a lot of connections there with China, with Elon. We saw that backflip. Elon said, oh, I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin because I don't want to miss out on the profit, but I'm going to stop accepting it for payment because it's too dirty. And then we saw the World Economic Forum come out and start bashing proof of work mining. And we saw BlackRock start talking about an ESG asset. An asset has to be environmentally friendly, socially friendly, and has to have a lot of governance. Again, a lot of buzzwords. But again, I think there was a concerted effort to attack the price then. And it worked briefly. Bitcoin crashed 50% from 65,000 to about 28, and then we rallied back up to 69. Again, we've never seen a 50% pullback like that in the middle of a bull market since 2013. Very strange timing. But again, I'm kind of putting together all of these puzzle pieces now because I'm starting to see similar signs. Are we seeing an attack on Bitcoin? Every time it gets above an all-time high, we see another new rumor or a new leak come out about Bitcoin. Again, a few weeks ago, what happened when Bitcoin got above $120,000? There was all of a sudden a bounty that was put out saying we need to find how much Bitcoin America owns. And again, let's not forget the rumors. A lot of people were like, oh, America might have sold 50,000 coins. We had a little bit of a correction, a sell-off. A few weeks later, we're back at $123,000 yesterday. And Besant comes out with this interview. Strange timing, don't you think? That some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, the UK and America, are right now creating a lot of FUD and confusion in the market. Because let's not forget, this is a new plan coming out of the UK. They're talking about selling $7 billion worth of Bitcoin. And I want to break down what is happening with the UK, what is happening with America, and why we're seeing a lot of these, let's call it what it is, confusing narratives now. Now, again, it's not popular to take this opinion. I've really got the tinfoil hat on tight right now because, again, everybody's just saying, number go up, it's bullish. The government's going to pump our bags. I'm just saying, let's put the handbrake on. And I don't think there's a coincidence here with the timing of all of these narratives coming out of America. And I don't think there's a coincidence why we've got the UK doing what they're doing now. Okay, I think this is strange timing. We're seeing ETFs rolled out in the UK the week after the UK started talking about dumping their 50,000 Bitcoin as well. Again, I don't know if you guys have seen the dots that I'm slowly but surely starting to connect here, but I do think there's some really strange events going on right now. Again, before we dive into what is actually happening, in America and the UK. And before we start breaking down that report in a little bit more detail, I will remind you, again, this is just another example why we shouldn't be trusting our governments. Governments should not be trusted with your money or with anything, and especially your Bitcoin. So again, I'll remind you, if you're not taking self-custody of your Bitcoin, I think today is the perfect day to get started on self-custody in your Bitcoin, because I have a little bit of a special announcement. Ledger right now is literally giving you $80 of free Bitcoin if you buy some hardware wallets this week only. They're running a massive discount, a massive promotion. I learned something really interesting about a Ledger today, actually. A lot of Bitcoin hardware wallets have a screen on them. There's a few of them, but these screens are actually the only Bitcoin hardware wallets that are protected by the secure element in the ledgers. Again, there's a lot of other wallets. I won't name names, but I literally just learned today that the touchscreen hardware wallets from Ledger are not only the easiest to use, but they're actually the most secure Bitcoin hardware wallets out there. So again, I'd highly recommend you check them out. They are literally going to give you $80 of free Bitcoin if you buy a Ledger Stacks. And I believe you get a similar discount on a Ledger Flex. You get $70 of free Bitcoin. So again, if you have been putting off buying a hardware wallet, this offer is only going to run for a couple of days. So I highly encourage you guys to take advantage of this while it lasts. I don't know what they're doing over there at Ledger. They're literally just throwing Bitcoin at you. You can see you can even buy a Ledger Nano S for $79, and it's going to come with a $30 voucher of Bitcoin. It's kind of insane. I think this is going to be the best deal that you're probably ever going to see. So again, take advantage of that while it lasts. I do have a link down below that you guys can use to go and take advantage of this offer. Again, I love these hardware wallets. They're touchscreen, super easy to use. Again, I think a touchscreen hardware wallet solves so many problems in the space. Look at this. I can even navigate this with my big, hot, sweaty sausage fingers. Look at how easy that is to use. Again, check them out. I think there's a ton of great hardware wallets in the space, but I learned today that the touch screens in Ledgers are literally the only ones that are backed by their secure element chip. So check that out. All Night Hiders even popped a link for Ledger in the chat. I also have a link down below in the description for you guys. And again, I'll always remind you, never, ever, ever write down your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on something like this. Again, what do we do with paper? Paper is for ripping. Paper is not for your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words. This is why I also encourage you guys to check out what Stampseed is building. They create what I believe should be the industry standards for Bitcoin backups, and that is titanium plates. Again, a lot of people use stainless steel. It's okay, but titanium is better. It is more heat resistant. And again, they're going to give you a 15% discount on anything you want to buy from Stampseed with the promo code Luke15. So I highly recommend you check them out. I think they're an essential tool in your Bitcoin toolbox, so to say. Okay, very, very important. Now let's move on and let's talk a little bit more about what exactly is going on with this new report, because I think it's bullish, and I do want to crunch some more numbers. I do like to crunch numbers. So let's dive into it. We can see this is the insanely bullish report that was dropped by Satoshi Action Fund and Dennis Porter. Kudos to them. But I want to run through a few more assumptions for you guys, because I want to show you some more conservative cases. I've showed you the bullish assumptions. Let's dive into the more conservative ones as well. So we can see, I love this chart, because have a look at the black line. Look at the Bitcoin price. This black line is literally saying we could see a $20 million Bitcoin price by 2032. That's 6 years away, believe it or not. That's insanely bullish. And again, I love this report because it's based on simple supply and demand. This table here actually shows you, look at these columns. What happens if there's less than 10,000 Bitcoin on the exchanges and is liquid? So the liquid amount of Bitcoin. They actually can't give you a projection for what the price of Bitcoin will be. They just say it's hyperbolic. It's too bullish to track. I thought that was a pretty interesting assumption. And again, this is kind of like my base case. Like my base case is by 2036, there's going to be very little Bitcoin on the exchanges. Again, I'm not saying there's zero, but my base case is that we're going to see a world where there's not a lot of Bitcoin on exchanges. And my base case is kind of what is lined out in one of these tables where they show you that there could be like, 500,000 Bitcoin that is liquid. That means it goes on and off the exchanges in a 6-month time frame. That's kind of my base case. So I want to find that little part of the report for you guys because that's pretty much what I'm expecting. Let's say that's my conservative estimate in public. I'm probably a little bit more bullish than that privately, to be entirely frank with you guys. But you guys will just call me crazy. This little report here shows, hey, there's 3.6 million Bitcoin that's liquid, $10 million Bitcoin price tag. But wait, we can get even more bullish than that. I know there's another part of this report where it tries to model what happens when there's even less Bitcoin than that. Here it is. So if there's 40,000 coins on the exchanges, that is liquid. And that means it goes on and off the exchange in a 6-month time frame. I believe that is what liquid supply means. Price of Bitcoin by 2036 is $20 million per coin. That's kind of my base case. Again, if you want to be conservative and assume there's 500,000 Bitcoin that's going on and off the exchanges, you're looking at a Bitcoin price tag of 5.8 million. I'm probably more on the bullish side there, guys, and that's purely because of this chart. I'm going to pop on screen. This is the Bitcoin on exchanges. In the not too distant future, the amount of Bitcoin that's actually liquid, there's not going to be much. And I think this is also highlighted by this growing trend of Bitcoin becoming more and more illiquid. The amount of illiquid supply continues to set new all-time highs every couple of years here, which I think is incredibly bullish. Look at McLovin in the chat. After much technical analysis, I've concluded I need more Bitcoin. Yep. CJ, $5 million by the end of 2029 is a pretty fair estimation. It's bullish. That's bullish. It's bullish. I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, but I think there's a higher probability than most people think, which is why I wanted to break down this report this morning for you guys. There's a ton of you guys who are very patient in the chat, so thank you for that. We got McLovin in the chat. Hello, Rock VTM, my friend. Bitcoin Bull. We got a few new guys in here. I'd love to get your thoughts on the report, whether you think it's too bullish. I personally think it's one of the first reports that's actually tried to model what goes on with the price of Bitcoin based on the supply and the change in supply. That's good. I do like that. And again, I think this is something that's just not given enough attention in the Bitcoin space. Too many people, they're following models that just I don't think are going to work. Like, for example, the power law. Too many people are trusting the power law. Again, we shouldn't be trusting anyone in the space, especially me. I tell you this all the time. Please don't trust me. Don't trust anything I say. Go and verify and fact check everything I say for yourself. And anybody who says that you're not allowed to question them, that should give you a massive red flag. Speaking of, without naming names, oh, look what I found. The power law, the model that can't be questioned. All I'm going to say is, guys, I think Bitcoin, again, it's the most important technology we've ever created. I think it's going to be bigger than fire, the internet, and the printing press. And I think it's going to be really difficult to try to project or predict how Bitcoin's adopted. That's all I'm going to say. So I think everybody's going to be wrong. All models are going to be wrong. And I think everybody is just not bullish enough. They're too bearish. They don't have enough Bitcoin. Again, I'll remind you guys, if you are looking for somewhere to get your hands on some Bitcoin in a non-KYC friendly way, highly recommend you check out what Simple Mining is doing. They're a great Bitcoin-only mining company where you can get started mining with these guys today. And if you use the link down below in the description, because you're friends of mine, they're going to hook you up with a year's worth of free repairs on any Bitcoin mining rigs that you're using for hosted mining. So you can do hosted mining with them, where you can literally just get started mining online. You don't need to buy your own machine, or you can buy your own machine from Simple Mining. They have a ton of different offers and services for you. And I always like to remind you guys, mining your Bitcoin is the most OG cypherpunk way to get your hands on Bitcoin. So many people know we shouldn't be buying Bitcoin on an exchange. Again, I need to be careful with what I say from a tax perspective, but there's lots of ways to get your hands on Bitcoin without attaching your identity to it. So I think mining's a great solution. Check them out. There's a link for Simple Mining down below. I think they're another very, very important tool that should be in your Bitcoin toolkit. Now, Foxy's got a great comment here. Before I circle back to the report, I want to quickly answer this question. Any advice on running a node? So I think we should. Short answer, everybody should run a node. And it's getting easier and easier every year to run a node because technology is getting better and better. When I first ran my node, this was in 2020, and no pun intended, the only plug and play option was with my node. That was the company. So again, I use that. I set it up in a few hours on a weekend. And now I believe it would be even easier to set up a node. So I think everybody should do it. Everybody should look into the most recent debate happening in the Bitcoin space between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Knots. I'm personally running Bitcoin Knots because I just don't think that jamming JPEGs on the Bitcoin blockchain should be accepted. I don't want to get into the whole debate of whether it's stoppable, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. I'm running Bitcoin Knots. I encourage everyone to look into running a node. Helps you be a little bit more sovereign. Because again, whenever you're sending money and you're making transactions from a Bitcoin wallet, unless you're running your own node, you're using someone else's node to broadcast your transaction. And that means they have your XPub, and that means they know how much Bitcoin is in your wallet. So again, if you want to be completely sovereign and completely private, if you run your own node, you can broadcast your own transactions and keep your XPub private. I hope that wasn't too technical, but that's the simplest way I can explain it. CJ in the chat, he views my node. Congrats. I also have a Raspberry Pi 4. It's funny. I don't even think people are recommending using Raspberry Pis anymore because that hardware is so outdated. I smiled because it gave me a little bit of nostalgia buying my Raspberry Pi online. A lot of you guys are incredibly bullish in the chat. 1 million by end of year 2025 and 10 million by end of year 2030. That's insane. That's bullish right there. That is, I thought I was bullish. What would that look like on a price chart of Bitcoin? 10 million by 2030. Let's have a look. And we're going to have to zoom all the way out to see 10 million. Again, but here's the thing. This is what most people... So I have the bull markets here circled in these red boxes. I'm going to show you. This is what 1 million looks like on a chart. So again, maybe if we see that by 2030, this is what some people are talking about. Zoom all the way out to 2030. Like if you guys look at the trend here, like again, please don't trust my tea leaves and my stupid lines on charts that I'm drawing. This is more of a demonstrative purpose. But the top of that red box is at $10 million Bitcoin. Doesn't look completely insane to get up around that price level by 2030. I think a lot of people hear that number and they're like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's high. It's not completely insane though. Just a perspective for you guys. It's not completely insane. Now, yeah, the $7 billion Bitcoin, that looks insane on a price chart. That's where I actually think Bitcoin's going. If we're talking 20 years out, that's today's purchasing power. Now that's going to look insane on a chart. Let me try to get a $7 billion Bitcoin price prediction on a chart. My Lord. Okay, that is insane. Okay, let's take this up to 20 billion. That's 100 million. Let's go higher. That's a billion. Wow. Look at this. This is my official Bitcoin price prediction. I'm going to save this stream for future purposes. I think by the year 2040, Bitcoin is well over $1 billion per coin. This here is 4 billion. So this is the exact maths for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is the only money in 10 years' time, let's call it 2035, and if we still have $1.8 trillion of economic trade that must be facilitated by Bitcoin, if there's only 450 Bitcoin mined every day, and this is the only Bitcoin available to facilitate that global trade, the price of Bitcoin will be $4 billion per coin. That's just the maths. If all of the Bitcoin is being hodled. And again, I'll remind you, in 10 years' time, there's going to be less than 450 Bitcoin mined every day. It halves in 2028 to 225 per day. Then it halves again in 2032 to about 112 Bitcoin per day. And by 2036, there'll be like, what's that, 67 Bitcoin mined every day? Or hang on, 57 Bitcoin mined every day. So the maths is actually even more bullish. But this is my official 2035 Bitcoin price prediction. I filmed it. It's on YouTube. It's live. I think we're going to be over 4 billion by 2035. So there you go. You guys can hold my feet to the fire. And even at $5 billion a Bitcoin, I will still never be selling my Bitcoin, because you should never sell your Bitcoin. What do the rich people do? They borrow against their assets. What should you do? Don't panic, because there are some options that let you borrow against your Bitcoin in a safe way. Again, very important caveat. There's a lot of unsafe ways to get yield on your Bitcoin. Never trust a company that doesn't give you some sort of custody over your Bitcoin. This is why I really like Firefish. Firefish is a completely peer-to-peer Bitcoin lending company. They don't take custody of your Bitcoin, and they will openly tell you, we're using multi-signature vaults. They've got an open source code base, and I think they're so good, I've used them myself. So again, if you are looking to borrow against your Bitcoin, highly recommend you use them. Check them out. Super easy to use. I've got a couple of loans myself on Firefish. They're really easy to use. You can get a 2-year loan. You can even repay the loan early if you want to. I experimented with this feature earlier in the week on my $1,000 loan. You can see I applied to repay one of my loans earlier. And I can just click a button, go and repay my loan, scan a QR code, bingo, bango. I get access to my Bitcoin again. I really like Firefish. I just highly recommend you guys check them out and learn more about them. If you just want to learn more about them, their CEO was on the Stefan Levera podcast a little while ago. So go check out that interview Stefan did with Igor, and check out Firefish. They're even going to give you 30% off your first loan if you use a promo code Luke. So again, a lot of great Bitcoin options for you guys to level up today. Long live stream, 47 minutes. I apologize that you guys had to put up with me for 47 minutes with my big bloodshot eye. My eye's actually slowly getting better. I lost the fight of an ice cube earlier in the week, so apologies if you've had to deal with my bloodshot eyes. But with all that said, guys, hope that was a bullish stream. We didn't hit a new all-time high tonight. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. But with all that said, I'll sign off, and I'll see you all in the next live stream.